So as we get into this, welcome to panelists. And first up is Rob from Starkey. Rob, go ahead and take it away.
My name is Robert Elliott. I'm first extend a thank you to Dan Gert for inviting me to speak on his panel. We've implemented Deploy by Flexagon with great success, and we've been using them for about the past 3 years. And I'm really excited to be here and to talk about it. A little bit about my background. I've been in the IT industry for about 18 years, half of which I've been spending with my current employer. About Starkey, we have about 6,000 employees and factories in 5 countries, and total revenue of just right around $1 billion a year. So we're considered a mid-sized firm. Currently, our environment, we're running Oracle e-Business Suite version 12.1.3 on-prem. And we're looking at doing some cloud stuff in the future, just not a whole lot presently. Obviously, we have Oracle database to support our EBS. We use Apex pretty extensively for a lot of our ancillary processes. And we have Microsoft Team Foundation Server as our source code repository. So before we got into FlexDeploy software for our DevOps work, we did a lot of manual processes to kind of carry us along. I mean, what that really consisted of was we would take some of our source code and we would stage it in a directory, and then we would run scripts against it, and we would find that it had a number of drawbacks. I mean, we could kind of make it work reasonably well, but it had a number of problems. First, we were a little bit too free with our passwords, and so we had some security concerns there. And we also found that we always had a person had to kind of be at the switch at all times just to kind of make things run. So it was very, very manual and time and labor intensive. And our approach also lacked a create once, deploy multiple mantra. It was also very coordination intensive. We would have to coordinate in and among team members, at a particular time of the month, and then agree on a time to lay down code and then kind of go from there. And we absolutely completely lacked any form of documented information about when and what was deployed. It was basically just stage our code, run the script, and then observe the results. Now, when we undertook, looking at DevOps software, we really wanted to take the thought process that our process would drive our product. I mean, our product being that is code. It is deployed code. So having a really strong DevOps process in place would lend to a higher quality result for our customers and for how our IT reflects to our organization overall. I mean, we also had a lot of on-the-fly fixing of problems. We didn't really have a strong way to just deploy, roll back as needed, and the segregation of duties was pretty lacking. As we looked at deployment software, we really wanted to take the time to get it right, so we evaluated a number of different software products. We looked at QuestStat, we looked at Quintana, we looked at Oracle Application Management, and we looked at Migration Director. And some of the particulars around these, for example, QuestStat, is a fat client install. That involves, installing a program on every single developer's machine. That's time intensive. Quintana, we found that, it's both of these are kind of like the 500-pound gorilla of DevOps software. These QuestStat and Quintana have been around for a number of years, and the implementation cost for Quintana seemed kind of prohibitive to us. I mean, it looked like something in the neighborhood of $100K upfront, $20K ongoing, and another $50K to implement. So it was just, even though it has really robust features, it was way more than we really needed. So we kind of weren't interested in really kind of continuing with that line. Oracle AMS had some issues that we weren't really super excited about. They didn't really have robust support for setup files and picking the FND setups and kind of incorporating those into a deployment. It basically just you'd edit text files and then it would kind of bundle them together, but it was still a lot of manual stuff. It was not like a nice graphical approach to doing things. And we also looked at Migration Director, and their references were not particularly strong. They were really interested in selling something to us, but we were really looking for a higher quality solution there, so we had to kind of discount that decision. FlexDeploy by Flexagon was also the only tool that really offered a true try before you buy model, and that's very unusual in and among software vendors. All these other vendors that we evaluated, their sales method is basically to give you a demo and then ask for you to write a check. for the software. And that wasn't really the case with Flexagon. They really took the time to listen carefully to what our requirements were and what we were trying to do with the software. Then we were offered the community free edition on a kind of interim basis to get acquainted with the software, and they really brought a sense of confidence about their product. They were going to demonstrate it would work before we ever were going to be asked to license it, and that is pretty unusual in among many of these other very old seasoned products that have been around a while. So I have to give Flexagon a lot of credit for taking that approach. It really took a lot of the pressure off of me. It took a lot of risk out of the process of acquiring a DevOps software, which I was really impressed with. The process for which we implemented really involved spending around 40 hours of time implementing it with Eric Jones, the Flexagon resource, remotely. So, in terms of, the cost to implement, it was almost non-existent because it was basically me and Eric working through all of the challenges and the issues as we implemented. And, there was only a couple of things that I would talk about. One of the challenges was that we forced to really take a hard look at our state of our code in our source code repository. We had a problem at the time where our DevOps source code repository did not really closely align with our application servers, and hence did not closely align with the database. So sometimes our developers would be forced to kind of hunt around for the most current version because we didn't really trust our source code repository as being the most current version of an object. Now, because FlexDeploy is such a robust tool and it forces you to have a really close relationship between your source code repository, your application code tree, and your database, kind of helped to self-correct a lot of that stuff as we implemented. But it does require us to reorganize our code into in such a fashion that the application code tree and the source code repository are exactly aligned to one another. So that was a challenge for me to move things around and get everybody on the development team to all understand what I was doing and why I was doing it. But ultimately, it worked out really, really well. And speaking for myself, the acquiring DevOps software had turned into a bullet point on our department's to-do list that was just never getting done. It was just something that it was nice to have that we would just kind of push out and push out and push out, and it would just never get done. So when I was able to tackle this with Eric directly with about 40 hours of implementation time on my own, and it presented the company with a really, really incredible opportunity that I don't think we ever would have gotten around to really tackling it if we hadn't been presented with this sort of low risk, high quality opportunity that Flexagon provided. And after we implemented, it was observed that the development team gravitated so quickly to FlexDeploy that we immediately started bumping up against the demonstration limit, of the community free edition. People would gravitate to this software and started using it. It was so easy and it was so self-explanatory how to use and so intuitive to use that they would come up to me and say, "Well, you're the one implementing this. I also want to use it over here in our different Oracle EBS project instances." And I would have to say, "Well, no, I can't do that right now because we're limited by the fact that this is the community free edition. We're only limited to 10 endpoints, and I've already used all 10 for our dev, test, stage, and production instances. So I can't do that until I have an agreement in place." And they're like, "Okay, well, I'll wait for that." So it was really a good problem to have after we initially implemented. The team just gravitated to it so quickly. And, by the time I was fully implemented, before, we had even purchased the tool, it was basically turnkey ready. We were fully implemented. All I really had to do was go to my boss and say, "Okay, it's time, we've seen what this can do. It's time to make a deal." And it just brought a lot of confidence in their decision-making process because, as Oracle EBS implementers, we sometimes have to drink a lot of what they call drink the Kool-Aid kind of thing. And so we're very skeptical of a lot of things that vendors sometimes tell us, but Flexagon really delivered on everything that they said they were going to deliver. And they did so with, a lot of class and a lot of poise as they did it. Lastly, overall, I couldn't be happier with the way that Flexagon handled the project, how the install went. And their support has really been very responsive and they're very knowledgeable. In hindsight, if I had it to do over again, I wouldn't change a thing. I just probably would have done it years earlier. Recently, we extended our FlexDeploy footprint to include some automation around bouncing our workflow containers, and that's been really helpful to us. And also around, we make pretty extensive use of the Oracle integrated SOA gateway. We added some functionality around that. And we plan on doing some more with the Application Express. We do deployment of some database objects already, but we haven't really gotten into the guts of Apex yet. And we know we're going to do some cloud things in the future. I think that pretty much concludes everything I had to say.